Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. And also, the Search for the Ancient Bauble Kickstarter has launched, so make sure you go check that out. The Kickstarter campaign will last for 30 days, and after that, the playmat will no longer be available for purchase. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. Not too long ago, I did an episode on if it's possible to build a $1 Commander deck. Now, I'm not going to spoil the answer for you in case you don't want to know it without actually watching that episode, so make sure you check that one out at some point. Anyways, making that episode got me thinking, what other kinds of challenging and unique decks are out there to build? So I dug deep into one that has been bugging me for a while. And in this episode, I'm asking the question, can you build an oversized card tribal deck? Your typical Magic card is approximately 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, or in centimeters, 6.3 by 8.8. But until recently, Commander Precon decks had come with an oversized Commander card, which is much larger. That being 3.5 inches by 5 inches, or 9 by 12.5 centimeters. So I've just had this funny image in my head of walking up to a Commander table, pulling out my giant oversized Commander deck, shuffling it up, and then drawing cards as if it was just completely normal. That could be pretty shocking and fun. And through my research for this episode, I also found that there are other oversized cards out there as well. So with all that said, let's jump into it and talk about if it's possible to build an oversized card tribal deck. So my first step was to see just how many oversized cards are out there. So I went onto Scryfall, typed in "is oversized," and it popped up with this. Now, the number 294 looks like it is a lot, but when you start looking at the cards, including just the ones in this image, you see that something is slightly off. Obviously, the search is including every single oversized card, including some that are, well, not your typical ones. Or at least I should say, not your typical Magic cards. It includes some types of cards from some different types of products, like things like Schemes and Vanguards. And then other things like Phenomenons and Planes from things like Plane Chase. So if we are going to be building an entirely legal oversized Commander deck, well, that's not going to exactly work for us. So now let's update our search by taking out Planes, Schemes, Vanguards, and Phenomenons, and it looks like we're down to just 106 cards. So that's quite an unfortunate drop all the way down from 294 down to 106. We just lost over half of our oversized card pool. That being said, 106 cards is still enough for a Commander deck. Again, obviously, just from this image, you can see that there are plenty of legendary creatures out there that are coming from those Commander products, such as the Subjective Reality Precon deck where you get the oversized Amanatu. Again, up until as recent as the Ikoria Precon decks, these had come with an oversized Commander card. So we've got quite a pool of those to pick from. Now, when it comes to what Commander that we actually want for the oversized deck, well, our options are kinda limited. Although you can build effective Commander decks around commanders such as Amanatu, Anya, and Atraxa, well, when you're just building with oversized cards, you kinda need access to all the colors. Atraxa at 4 color gives you access to a lot of the cards, but again, with a card pool this small, we need access to essentially all of them. Limiting our card pool further isn't exactly what we want to do. But luckily for us, there are 2 commanders that we can pick from that are 5 color with the Ur-Dragon and Sliver Queen. Now, when it comes to which to pick out of the 2, let's logic it out. The Ur-Dragon is a 10/10 flyer with Eminence. As long as it's in the command zone or on the battlefield, other dragon spells we cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever one or more dragons we control attack, draw that many cards, and you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. And then Sliver Queen is a 7/7 sliver that has pay to put a 1/1 color sliver creature token onto the battlefield. So both are commanders with tribal synergies for their tribe. Unfortunately for Sliver Queen, there aren't any other oversized sliver cards. And aside from the Ur-Dragon, there are 7 other oversized dragons. And it at least gives you a benefit even if you don't have it in play. So the direction that I personally would go for this oversized tribal deck is with the Ur-Dragon at the helm. Now, let's go back and take a look at that Scryfall search again. We've got the oversized cards, we've taken out planes, schemes, vanguards, and phenomenons. But aside from the commanders, even just in this image, there's a different type of card in here as well. Now, that card is Ancestral Recall, which is banned in Commander, but we'll get to that here in a bit. It also says in it, 2018 Europe Vintage Champion. So if you go on this Magic Rarity site, it shows off Vintage and Legacy Championship oversized unique cards. And apparently goes all the way from 2003 to 2020. And if you're looking at the exact same image that I'm looking at right now, you can see that this card is quite oversized. In fact, much larger than the oversized cards that we've been talking about so far. On top of that, from the looks of it, we probably can't get access to this card because there's probably only one in existence. And on top of that, this card is banned in Commander, but we'll get to that here in a bit. Regardless, finding out that the Vintage Championship cards are massively oversized helped me out with another search. So if we search on Scryfall for the oversized Vintage and Legacy Championship cards, we find that there are 24 of them. So again, unfortunately, we can't use any of these cards. Not just because there's only a few of these in existence, but also because these are extremely oversized cards that wouldn't actually fit in the deck. Now again, that's really not that much of a blow for cards like Time Walk, Black Lotus, and Mox Jet that are already banned. Although it would be really nice if we could use the Black Lotus or Mox Jet, because you know ramping probably isn't going to be a thing for this deck. But perhaps the more unfortunate part about this are the lands that are in the Vintage Championship and Legacy Championship cards. Obviously, things like the dual lands could really help us out when it comes to fixing our mana, which again would be very nice with a 5-color deck that again doesn't really have access to ramp or fixing. So unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to things like Gaia's Cradle, Tropical Island, and Wasteland because again, these cards are just far too oversized and there aren't many of them. But even with the championship hiccup, my search continued. And I was ecstatic to find that there are oversized basic lands. Now, these oversized lands might be very expensive, but at least they exist. Because, you know, it's going to be kind of hard to play any kind of a deck without a mana base. So again, when I saw this oversized mountain, I was ecstatic. Until I read slightly further that this card is larger than other oversized cards. The card measures 6.25 by 8.75. And 6¼ inches by 8¾ inches is quite a bit larger than our oversized Commander cards. So yeah, that's not gonna work either. So farewell Oversized Mountain, Oversized Island, and Oversized Swamp. You had given me such hope until you dashed it across the shores of Island. Whatever, I'm not a poet, okay? Anyways. So my next step was to move back to my original search and see what I was left with. So on top of removing the planes, the schemes, the Vanguard cards, the Phenomenon, I've also removed the Vintage and Legacy Championship cards. So that left me with 82 cards. But after scrolling through this list, I saw a familiar yet unfamiliar face with Garruk the Slayer. As you can see, this is not your typical Magic card. You know, since most Planeswalkers actually have a mana cost and also not 20 starting loyalty. After doing some quick research, this one comes from the N15 pre-release challenge, and obviously it is not legal in any format. You know, unless you happen to be playing that M15 pre-release challenge, whatever it is. So after taking out that card, I was left with 81, but only briefly. Because not too far from Garruk alphabetically was Griselbrand. And though Griselbrand, though a favorite card of many in other formats such as Modern, is banned in Commander. So sorry Griselbrand, but like Garruk, you're also off the list as well. So all in all, at the end of the day, I ended up with 80 possible cards to pick from for this Commander deck. Now, unfortunately, obviously that's not enough to actually build a legal Commander deck since you need 100 cards. And even if there were 100 of these oversized legendary creatures, it still wouldn't be a functional deck. You know, since again we talked about earlier, you kinda need a mana base for that, and there aren't any oversized lands, at least ones that I could find that are the right size. Now, does this mean that you can't live the dream and build an oversized Commander deck? Not at all. Okay, I mean, I guess I should say just technically not at all. If I were to do this, I'd buy a lot of the cheapest oversized Commander card out there. For example, Anya Falconwrath is currently 49 cents. So I would buy, I don't know, 36 or 37 or so of those. And then I would use all but one to proxy basic lands. Now, if some Commander players aren't okay with that, that's fine, but I imagine a lot are going to be. Personally, I would have absolutely no issue playing against someone that had an oversized Commander deck that had to proxy basic lands. Regardless, if that were allowed, our 80 cards would be enough. In fact, it would be slightly more than enough. Assuming that we're going to be using, say, 36 lands, that means that we have 16 extra cards that we can cut. Now, if you are actually making this deck, obviously feel free to pick and choose whichever cards you want to cut. If I was starting off my cuts though, I would probably start off with those 4 and 5 color cards. Again, we don't have ways to ramp or fix mana, and we just have basic lands, so hoping that we hit the right lands isn't always going to be the best strategy. So essentially I'd be on the lookout for the 16 most difficult cards to cast, and then I'd cut those. Now, are those the most synergistic cuts for the deck? Probably not. But again, synergy was the last thing that I was thinking about when going about making this kind of a deck. Again, upon starting my search for oversized cards, I already started off with a limited card pool. And then that card pool kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling even further. So you gotta make do with what you got. And while you're at it, make sure you go get yourself some oversized sleeves for that oversized deck. And to be honest, I didn't actually think that oversized sleeves were actually even out there. Who knew? Regardless, I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I would love to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are on an oversized card tribal deck. And also let me know if you've already done this, because if so, that's amazing. Or let me know if you plan to do it, and I would love to see the final results. And with all that said, thanks again and have a good one.